Following a suspenseful story of Tommy Stevenson's wake and funeral, episode 5 of the Paramount Plus crime thriller MobLand ended explosively. Conrad called several of his children to the Cotswolds to decide how to handle the matter after Harry stated at the end of episode 4 that the entire Harrigan clan had been called to the funeral of Richie Stevenson's recently slaughtered son, Tommy. Everyone was pleased to point out that an invitation of that kind from their vile adversary screams of a trap. Harry, however, reasoned that if Richie agreed to their plan to have Valjean blamed for Tommy's death, he would not attack the Harrigans in such a public place, because it would not only invite almost certain law enforcement intervention, but would also be detrimental to the general operations of London's criminal enterprises. They were determined that they would not arrive at the Stevenson home without some risky presence for the host, even if they came to the shaky conclusion that it would be in their best interest to attend the burial, and maybe further dispel the rumor that Eddie was responsible for Tommy's murder. Why nothing happened at Tommy's funeral or wake? In the end, Harry's intuition was right, and Richie reluctantly showed respect for the Harrigans' attendance at both the wake and the funeral. Since it would have been established that there is no trust or peace between the families, it would have effectively been a declaration of war and an admission of guilt if no one from their family had showed up. Richie's somewhat smart invitation was motivated by his knowledge that this would be the case. He either found a reason to exact revenge on the Harrigans, or he got them within his roof so he could face them all. Richie called Harry, Kevin, and Conrad to a back room with him and two of his guys to settle the score after Eddie, predictably, caused a stir at the wake. He acknowledged that he respected the Harrigans for their appearance, but he also made it abundantly evident that he knew exactly who killed Tommy. He never fell for any of the other plans of the Harrigans, including the deception with Valjean. He wanted to see if there was shame in the eyes of the Harrigans, especially Eddie and Conrad. Retribution was another interesting line Richie drew in the sand. He made it clear that he and his men were free to take Eddie anywhere they saw him in public, which is very reasonable in the eye-for-an-eye culture of the criminal underworld. But Richie saw that a full-scale gang war could only lead to death and lost revenue for the Stevensons and the Harrigans, and that nothing positive could ever come from it. It's intriguing to observe that Richie, who the Harrigans have portrayed as essentially a wild dog, is the composed and sensible one in this scenario. How Richie knew who really killed Tommy. When Eddie went up to Richie, he refused to remove his sunglasses, which was probably simply Richie's way of confirming what he already knew. Since MobLand's first episode, he has stated on several occasions that he wanted to confront Eddie and have him inform Richie that he didn't kill Tommy so that Richie could see the truth for himself. Since Richie had known all along that Eddie was the cause of Tommy's death, either from a witness or just instinct given the circumstances and individuals involved, it was obvious that he wanted to get close to Eddie in order to murder him. How Harry got guns into Richie's house. Harry and Conrad had no intention of waltzing into the lion's den without anything, even though they were quite certain that there would not be an attack at the Stevenson residence. By having Freddie, one of Richie's buddies, put a bag of guns and explosives in Richie's garage, Harry was able to smuggle weaponry into the Stevenson home. After Harry managed to obtain Freddie's phone, he discovered some shocking images that demonstrated Freddie's affair with Vron, Richie's wife. Freddie had to decide whether to place the firearms or risk dying at Richie's hands. What Brandon is plotting with Serafina. Despite being the oldest, Brandon, the son of Maeve and Conrad, is always the odd man out in the Harrigan household due to his long history of foolish business endeavors. In episode 5, it was ultimately revealed that he had pushed his half-sister Serafina for assistance with another plan that he thinks will win them back the family's favor. According to reports, Brandon already has a buyer for several rare Mozambican rubies that he reportedly has access to. All he needs is assistance in fronting the money to close the sale. Who actually made the decision to kill Vron? The worst thing Vron could have done at Tommy's wake was to taunt and laugh in Maeve's face, because Maeve was already plotting to use her as the next important chess piece to fall in her scheme to start a war with the Harrigans. Maeve's son Kevin poisoned her after she had once again pushed Eddie toward violence by having him shoulder bump a Stevenson guard. Considering how antagonistic she is as a wild card, it was a precaution to remove her from the game. Despite Conrad's denial, Maeve accuses him of drugging her as soon as she wakes up, storms out, and promptly phones their man Paul. We can draw some conclusions about what Maeve and Paul talked about even if the conversation takes place off-screen because the very next scene shows Vron leaving her house to go shopping and her car blowing up when she tries to start it. When Maeve's plan to use Eddie to kill Tommy and incite a clan war ultimately failed, she immediately went on to the next, more severe assault. Why Maeve is desperate for war with the Stevensons. In order to push the Harrigans closer to war with the Stevensons, Maeve has persisted in controlling everyone in her vicinity, particularly Conrad and Eddie. Richie is aware that a conflict between the two families is just bad business, but she has accused Harry of being a rat, isolated Brandon and Serafina, and seems to only want mayhem. Given that she increasingly appears to be the rat in the Harrigan household, it appears as though she has a deeper agenda. Maeve might be hoping to seize control of the criminal enterprise in the heart of MobLand. Given that Conrad has been openly accused of being a serial adulterer throughout his life, and that she seems to take offense at this, she may potentially be behaving out of pure spite and retaliation. He brought Serafina into the family after cheating on Maeve with a startlingly young Bella, and he loves her. She is the result of his infidelity. Maeve appears to be sufficiently enraged, deranged, and lubricated to act on her worst instincts and destroy the Harrigans.